On 5 News, Cameron quits politics. He's standing down as an MP immediately. The former PM has decided to leave Westminster despite vowing to fight on till 2020. Mr Cameron says he doesn't want to become a distraction to Theresa May's premiership. Also, how ill is Hillary? Mrs Clinton cancels a campaign event after being diagnosed with pneumonia. One of Britain's biggest home delivery firms, Hermes, could face an investigation over the minimum wage. And another golden day for Paralympics GB. Will Bailey takes top honours in Rio. Welcome to 5 News. I'm Danny Sinha. Less than 2 months after leaving Downing Street, David Cameron has announced he's quitting Parliament altogether. He says he's standing down as an MP because he doesn't want to be a distraction to the new Prime Minister, Theresa May. He denies it has anything to do with her controversial plans to revive grammar schools, a policy he's believed to oppose. Well, as he looks forward to a new life outside of Westminster, will he struggle to shake off a legacy that he never wanted? Here's our political editor, Andy Bell.
He was the young leader who wanted to change his party. From hugger husky to hugger hoodie, David Cameron presented a new brand of conservatism. And it got him into Downing Street, just in coalition.
I came into politics because I love this country. I think its best days still lie ahead.
His time in office was dominated by attempts to cut public spending and the opposition to it. In foreign policy, initial success in Libya later turned sour, and he survived the Scottish independence referendum. But in the end, he lost his biggest gamble. The European vote forced him out. But why is he leaving Parliament now? Is it because he doesn't like what his successor is doing?
I spoke to Theresa May and she was very understanding about this decision. I support her, I support what she's doing. She's got off to a cracking start. Obviously, I'm going to have my own views about different issues. People would know that. And that's really the point. As a former Prime Minister, it is very difficult, I think, to sit as a backbencher and not be an enormous diversion and distraction from what the government's doing. I don't want to be that distraction.
The former Chancellor George Osborne's tweeted that this is a sad day and he knows how difficult this decision has been for his old friend. Less than 2 months ago, David Cameron was still in Downing Street as Prime Minister. Now he's leaving Parliament. How quickly the Cameron era has come to an end.
So, Andy, he said he was going to stay, but he seems to have changed his mind. Any ideas why?
Well, this afternoon, Theresa May has said she was proud to serve under David Cameron and that they achieved great things in government. But if you look at what she's actually done since she took over, there's a bit of a different interpretation to that. For a start, she pretty much purged the Cameron-Osborne team from her own government. She's really set out to define the character of her own government in opposition, if you like, to what went before. And on specifics like grammar schools, she's really going in completely the opposite direction to what David Cameron set out when he was in power. And I think David Cameron, well, you heard it really there in what he was saying. You know, if he stays in the Commons, he will constantly be asked what he thinks about every individual policy the government brings forward. He will have to vote on all of them. And it's clear that he will have different views and will be disagreeing with the new Prime Minister. And so he will be absolutely torn between the convention that as a former leader, he should be loyal to the person who took over from him in Downing Street, at the same time as he may have to watch his own legacy or his own ideas or his own policies essentially being trashed by that very successor who is now sitting in number 10. And I think when he sat down, whatever he might have thought at the beginning when he stepped down from being in number 10, when he sat down and thought about it over the summer, he probably said to himself, you know what, it's just not worth staying here in Parliament if that's what I'm going to have to put up with.
Andy, thank you. US presidential candidate Hillary Clinton is facing serious questions about her health after cancelling a campaign trip to California. Her team admitted she'd been diagnosed with pneumonia after she stumbled at a 9/11 memorial event yesterday. Well, her rival Donald Trump, who's long questioned her fitness, wished her a speedy recovery, but said health was now an issue in the campaign. As Warren Nettleford reports.
New questions this morning surrounding Hillary Clinton's health.
Hillary Clinton has canceled that California trip.
That startling piece of video came out.
Everybody's talking about
American TV news bulletins this morning reporting on what could be a decisive moment in this presidential campaign. Yesterday, Hillary Clinton was at a ceremony in New York to remember 9/11. She felt unwell and left early. But as she approached her van, she seemed on the point of collapse. Her legs buckled and her security team had to help her inside. At first, her staff only said the 68-year-old had become overheated and dehydrated. But then came the announcement she had been diagnosed with pneumonia on Friday. All through this campaign, the internet has been full of her opponents claiming Hillary Clinton is much sicker than she admits. Her team has dismissed such claims as deranged, but this news hasn't helped.
It makes her look like she tells fibs. It makes it look like she's incompetent. It makes it look like she's hiding things, like she doesn't have trust in the people. And, she could have solved this very easily. Her people could have come out on Friday when they knew and said, Mrs. Clinton's got, a little bit of pneumonia. It's nothing too bad. She just needs to rest a little bit.
This was just last week. Now we know this and other coughing fits were probably caused by pneumonia.
Every time I think about Trump, I get allergic.
But under pressure to release his own medical records, he's been uncharacteristically careful with his own language. Here's what he said, speaking on the phone to Fox News.
To see what I see. The coughing fit was a week ago, so I assume that was pneumonia also. I mean, I would think it would have been, so something's going on. But I just hope she gets well and gets back on the trail, and we'll be seeing her at the debate.
Hillary Clinton re-emerged on Sunday saying she felt great, but she's cancelled campaigning for today and tomorrow, and in just 2 weeks there's the first TV debate with Trump. The message from her supporters, get well soon. Warren Nettleford, 5 News.
There are calls for investigation into the delivery firm Hermes over allegations that some of its workers receive less than the minimum wage. There are claims that some staff also face losing out on work because they attended hospital appointments. Well, Simon Vigard joins me now. And Simon, what exactly has been going on here?
Well, for the unions, this follows the big win over 0 hours contracts and Sports Direct. Hermes is a big delivery company, is facing big questions on tax and self-employment contracts. This is what the chairman of the Work and Pension Select Committee, Frank Field, had to say today.
The great charge against Hermes is that they insist that people are self-employed, so they have no costs, they don't pay tax for them, they have no duty of care for them, but they treat them as though they are part of Hermes' workforce, having to turn up at a certain time, having to do certain tasks within a limited time scale, and woe betide you if you don't or can't turn up.
Well, here's the rebuttal from the company today. We have voluntarily embedded the principles of the national living wage into our business. Our average courier rate is £9.80, 36% above the minimum wage after all legitimate expenses have been deducted. Now, a bit of a mystery as to whether there is an inquiry. Frank Field says there is an inquiry. The Department of Business say they've passed it to HM Revenue and Customs. And the TUC conference at Brighton is underway today. The General Secretary saying for companies accused of this, there is no hiding place.
OK, Simon, thank you very much. Detectives are launching a new appeal into the murder of Stephen Lawrence after the discovery of a woman's DNA. The new evidence was found in a bag strap left close to the scene of his killing in south-east London 23 years ago. Well, the appeal has been made the day before what would have been Stephen's 42nd birthday. Facebook has failed to stop a landmark legal bid over a naked photograph of a 14-year-old girl. Lawyers for the girl from Northern Ireland claim the picture was obtained by blackmail and then posted several times as a form of revenge. They say Facebook should have done more to stop its publication. There may finally be some respite for the besieged people of Syria. A 10-day truce has started, agreed by the US and Russia, and welcomed by President Assad. Well, it should mean aid can reach areas in desperate need, but it's unlikely that all rebel groups will abide by that truce. And analysts say the situation is far too complex for it to hold. A warning, Catherine Jones' report begins on distressing images of a recent airstrike.
The start of the truce comes too late for the victims of this attack. With the agreement signed but not yet in force, the busy marketplace in the rebel-held city of Idlib was hit on Saturday, reportedly by Russian jets. Around 100 are thought to have died. Now the people of Syria should finally get some respite from this as a 10-day ceasefire begins. And in the capital Damascus, an emboldened Syrian president made a rare public appearance in a suburb his soldiers have recently retaken from opposition forces. The Syrian state is determined to recover every area from terrorists, Bashar al-Assad said, re-establishing safety and security, rebuilding everything. The ceasefire was brokered by Russia, which backs President Assad, and the US, which backs some of the rebel groups opposed to Assad's government. The truce allows both sides to continue bombing Islamist militants, including so-called Islamic State and groups previously linked to al-Qaeda. But some of those Islamist groups fight alongside US-backed rebels, so even targeted airstrikes against them could weaken the entire rebellion against the Syrian regime.
For the opposition, those fears will also surround whether this deal undermines them on the battlefield. They'll have to give up one of the groups which they've been fighting alongside, which they fear will lead to their eventual defeat.
Parts of Syria's second city, Aleppo, have been under siege for months, and people there are not convinced the truce will improve their lives.
There is nothing here in the markets. They are empty. So I know that there will not be a death by bombs, but another difficulty is other deaths by the lack of, for example, medical equipment.
Only yesterday, a suburb of Aleppo was attacked. The people of Syria must wait to see if tomorrow really is different. Catherine Jones, 5 News.
Still to come on the programme, why girls in Middlesbrough face a tougher time than girls in other towns. Plus, we speak to cyclist Jody Cundy about his Paralympic gold. All that and much more after the break. Welcome back. You're watching 5 News. As David Cameron works out what his next job will be, his former opposite number, Jeremy Corbyn, is hoping to keep his current one. It was a year ago today he was elected as Labour leader, promising a fight back. Since then, though, his party has plummeted in the polls and almost all his shadow ministers have resigned. So what do voters make of it all? Layla Hayes has been finding out in Chorley in Lancashire.
They've been making carpets here in Chorley for 35 years. At the last election, Labour won here by a slim majority, but questions over Jeremy Corbyn's leadership loom large. Sales director Paul Cunningham has voted Labour all his life, but isn't convinced Mr Corbyn has got what it takes.
I don't think he's got the charisma that's going to lead a Labour government into what we'll class as our next generation of politics.
Fans of Jeremy Corbyn say he's transformed British politics and increased Labour Party membership. But these staunch Labour supporters have concerns.
I think his views are probably a little bit too left-wing for me. He's got a lot of caring policies that I think the country needs. We do need a new direction in politics. But for me, Jeremy's isn't the one that I would vote for at the moment.
Jeremy Corbyn's supporters say he can win elections, but all the workers we spoke to here weren't convinced.
I think he's a good sort of representation of the Labour Party, but as a leader, I don't think he's got those core qualities.
A recent poll found only 20% of voters believe Jeremy Corbyn shares their views. So we headed to a local cafe to see what they thought there.
I think he's a very passionate man, but he's not coming across as a good, strong leader for us.
He's had a lot to put up with, without a shadow of a doubt. But like I say, he's just not the man to run the country.
A year after becoming leader, Jeremy Corbyn may have his critics, but he is fighting on and is confident he can turn things around. Layla Hayes, 5 News, Chorley.
A dangerous driver who called 999 whilst being pursued by police and asked for them to stop has been jailed. Police footage shows Bruce Dewey speeding through traffic in Worthing, West Sussex back in February. At one point, he swerved around a stop stick deployed to burst his tyres. Well, that was all before having to dodge a lorry that then pulled out in front of him. Well, eventually he was forced off the road by 2 police cars. He pleaded guilty to dangerous driving and not having insurance. He's been jailed for 1 year and 3 months and banned from driving for 3 years. It's fair to say growing up as a girl can have its challenges, but a new study in England and Wales has revealed that where you grow up makes a huge difference. The research, which looked at factors such as education, poverty and teenage pregnancy rates, found that quality of life is worse in inner cities. Minnie Stevenson has been finding out what some girls are going through.
People stereotype girls and expect them to not be as strong and determined as men. In my school, there are loads of boys who sexually harass girls. Teachers are completely oblivious.
I feel pressured by the people I see around me every day, and I think how they look compared to me.
In their own words, how it feels to be a girl growing up in Britain today. A major study has found, despite being one of the most developed countries in the world, young women are facing harassment at school, they're worried about their body image, and the pressure to be popular on social media is affecting their mental health. The report ranked the worst and best places to be a girl in the UK, looking at factors like the rate of teenage pregnancy, education and child poverty. Middlesbrough in the northeast came out worst, followed by Blackpool, Manchester, Nottingham and Liverpool. In the top 5 best places to live were Waverley, Rushcliffe, Chiltern, Mole Valley, Epsom and Ewell. So with Middlesbrough ranking as officially the worst place to grow up as a girl, I've come to meet a group of sixth form students in the town. We wanted to know how they feel about 2 issues highlighted in the report: the stress caused by social media and the pressure to have the perfect body.
You think social media has a negative impact, or is it something you kind of choose to ignore?
Just the pressure. Sometimes pressure gets to you, how many likes you get or whoever likes your photo or comments on your photo.
Was it actually making you unhappy, social media?
Yeah, it was. It was sort of the obsession with knowing what people are doing.
And in terms of body image, do you think there's, again, a lot of pressure on young girls to look a certain way?
When people are looking good and then they put some weight on, it's always criticised in the magazines, especially over summer.
And if you are anything above average, and there's a select few people which will make you feel like you are nothing.
The charity in charge of the report are now calling upon the government to take urgent action so that an entire generation of girls are not left feeling held back. Minnie Stevenson, 5 News.
Britain's music industry contributed more than £4 billion to the economy last year. According to new research, most of that money came from exports, thanks to the global success of the likes of Adele and Ed Sheeran. 1 in every 6 albums sold worldwide last year was by a British artist. Now, the goals and the glory keep on coming for Britain's Paralympians. After Super Sunday, in which the team picked up 21 medals, 8 of them gold, there have been yet more today, including one for table tennis star Will Bailey, who seemed to rather enjoy improving on his silver from London. Well, it's all done wonders, of course, to the medal table. Great Britain are firmly in second, with more medals than at the same stage 4 years ago. Olivia Kinsley reports.
What a moment for table tennis player Will Bailey, on top of the world after winning his first Paralympic gold. The 28-year-old's celebration was infectious, the arena turning to smiles. Before even starting this 400 metres final, David Weir had given his all for Rio, missing the birth of his baby son Lenny, born yesterday in the UK. He'd hoped it would be the first of 5 golds, but came in a surprise 5th.
Aled Davis.
Better news for Aled Davis, who got gold and a Paralympic record in the shot put. It follows a Super Sunday which saw 8 GB golds, including for cyclist Jody Cundy, so bitterly disappointed when he was disqualified at London 2012. He banished those demons with his 2nd gold in the team sprint.
That's absolutely stunning!
Kind of put all the wrongs to right that happened in London, and to come away with a gold medal in the kilometre in the team sprint, world records in the team sprint alongside Louis Rolfe and John Allen Butterworth. Yeah, it's very special.
At 40 years old, Richard Whitehead gave a masterclass in the 200 metre sprint.
And he defends his title, he kisses the camera.
And bronze for GB's Dave Henson, a former captain in the army who lost both of his legs to a roadside bomb in Afghanistan 5 years ago.
It's going to be
gold to Great Britain.
In the pool, it was a 1-2 stunner. Bethany Firth winning gold in the 200 metres freestyle. Her teammate Jessica Jane Applegate the silver. Today, Ellie Simmons broke the Paralympic record in her individual medley heat. She'll go for gold tonight, as will Sasha Kindred, who'll swim his last ever Paralympic race. It promises drama and emotion after a day of highs and lows. Olivia Kinsley, 5 News.
Now, just before we go, Matt is here to tell us what's coming up on 5 News tonight. Hi, Matt.
Hi, Danny. Good to see you. Yeah, we're going to have more reaction to David Cameron's decision to stand down as an MP. Is it really impossible for a former Prime Minister to be a simple backbencher? I'll also be talking about that shocking report about how where a girl lives affects her life. And we'll have lots more on the medal rush in Rio. I'll be talking to David Clark, who's chair of the British Paralympic Association Athletes Commission. All about that, Danny, in an hour.
Good stuff. Thank you very much, Matt. Well, that's all from us for now. Sean Welby's got the weather next, and Matt, of course, will be back in an hour at 6:30. Thanks very much for watching. Bye-bye for now.